Okay, so the most important thing that you can do when picking your niche, picking your crafting your offer is to have a look at the market forces. So I'm going to go through the market forces, both the internal and the external, and their impact on your revenue. Now, what you need to keep in mind is that these forces are at play in the market and they have a direct impact on your revenue potential. There's internal and there's external. Um, the internal ones you have control over, the external ones you don't. So let's go through the external ones to begin with. Now, to start off, um, the potential of new entrants into the market is the first market force. Now, this is probably one that you've heard of. How easy is it for new companies to get involved with whatever you're selling to do the same thing? I'll give you two examples. One, back in the 50s or so, taxi companies in New York were rampant. Anybody could get a car and start offering taxis, much like Uber is today. Well, the bigger taxi companies obviously didn't want that to happen, so they instituted regulations. They paid diplomats, whatever, lawmakers to create and enforce policies. Okay. That would restrict the ability for new entrants into the market. And so you had to have like $1 million to buy the emblem, put it on the hood of your taxi, and then you could be a taxi driver, but not before that. And so they eliminated or made it incredibly difficult. They added a very large barrier to entry for new companies getting involved. We see the potential for new entrants into, say, the marketing space as being huge. The potential of new entrants is huge. Marketing, any kid, teenager, 20 years, anybody, any age can read a book, say they're a marketer, and start offering marketing services, especially when they can watch how to run an ad on Facebook, see the opportunity, and then go do it for somebody else. So whereas the taxi drivers, the potential for new entrants is really low, the potential for new entrants into digital marketing is really high. So that's a market force that you don't have the control over. Now you get to the point where you're starting to, create your own regulations. Great, do that. But in the beginning, you're not going to have that amount of influence. So let's start with paying attention to that. Now, next up is the industry competition. How many individuals are already in your industry, already targeting your niche or your audience? Um, this is fairly easy to figure out. You can, if you're a dentist entering into the dental market, you can see that there's, 60,000 dentists. You know exactly how saturated a certain market is. Not so easy when you're doing, say, web development. Every freelancer in India and in China offers that. There's just absolute ton of people. However, vaccines, not so many people offering those, right? Number 3 on the list is the threat of substitute products. Now, this is not direct competitors. These are indirect competition that are solving the same problem. So an example of this would be generic prescription drugs for, brand names. The generic ones they're solving in the same way. Another one would be, let me see, let's say you get a scratch. You can solve it with a Band-Aid, you can solve it with healing cream, you can solve it with super glue, right? There's a lot of different options. They might not necessarily be your exact product, but you can even take it one step further and say, maybe it's weight loss. Okay. And there's people offering keto diets. There's people offering emotional support to lose weight, and there's people offering physical support to lose weight. So you got a lot of different categories for each niche that you have to pay attention to. The number 4 is negotiating power of suppliers. And think about this for a minute. If you are wanting to sell gas and the gas company says, well, Exxon comes to you and says, well, here's the price. They have all the control. You're not really allowed to charge more, not really allowed to charge less. You charge what they tell you to charge. On the other end, those are very strong suppliers. On the other end, you have like Walmart, and the power that the suppliers have over Walmart is very low. Walmart comes in and says, we'll buy your product at this much, and we'll buy this many of the items. And if we don't like it, you'll take it back and pay for everything. So how much power do your suppliers have over you? Next, the 5th item is negotiating power of the buyers. Now, let's say you're in used cars, Okay, the negotiating power of your buyers is fairly large. I mean, they can easily go to another lot. There's what, 10, 20, 30 lots in your town. I'm in a small town and there's still that many. And so the buyers have a lot of negotiating power. Whereas, let's say if you go into Walmart, again, you don't have much negotiating power to say, hey, I'm going to buy this item at this price, right? So those are the external forces. These external forces are what the larger Fortune 500 brands pay attention to when they're looking to enter into a new space with a new product or service. Um, Definitely something you should be paying attention to if you're considering picking a niche for your company. So let's talk about the internal market forces now. These ones are items that you do have control over. Now, right off the bat, if you're a physical location, then you're going to have, say, parking spaces. If you're a chiropractor and you only get one parking space assigned to you, well, that's going to have a direct impact on your potential revenue. You're not going to be able to see 2 or 3 people at a time, or it makes it difficult for them to do business with you. So that's one thing to pay attention to. Now, this is not an exhaustive list. With these internal market forces, you will need to consider all the different types of forces that are at play in your specific situation. If you're working with a customer, it's a good idea that you pay attention to whatever market forces are at play with their company as well. Distance to buyers. If we're talking e-commerce, not a problem. Well, I shouldn't say that, because if I'm ordering something from New York and it's going to take a day or a week to get here, then I'll probably keep looking and see if I can find somebody that can deliver it in a day, or even same day if I'm, say, in Austin, Texas or something. So what is your distance to buyers? How easy is it for them to do business with you? The ability to upsell. If you have one product and that's all you do, say you're selling water, well, I guess an upsell would be air. I don't know. Like, what could you upsell if that's your only product? Now, if you've got a coaching program, then you can create lots of different kinds of upsells. If you've got, if you're a dentist or that sort of thing, there's ability to upsell in that space as well. Now, remember, there's 3 different ways for you to increase money in your business. There's a lot of new customers, and there's the initial ticket price, and then there's the number of repeat customers. So those are the 3 ways that you can increase income of a business. The ability to upsell is number 3. It is really the repeat purchases of your customers. Well, and then here we have again customer reorders. So are they reordering the same product? How many times are they buying and buying again? Then you have price of initial order, like I just mentioned, and your your ability to find new customers. This is a big one. Say if you're going into a Facebook group and you have a list of 50,000 people suffering from overweight problems, right? Or health problems, or something of that niche that you solve. Well, that's going to be a situation where you can easily go into that Facebook group and you have direct access to those new customers. If there's an interest in the advertising platform that allows you to advertise directly to your customers, great. Your ability to find those new customers is going to be easy. But if you go picking a niche and then later on try to find those customers after you've created everything, you might find that, there is no Facebook group for helicopter manufacturers, right? So you're not going to be able to reach them as easily, and targeting them through Facebook ads is going to be really difficult. So pay attention to your ability to find new customers for this offer or service before you go into it. Your unique selling proposition. This is an internal market force that you can change and adapt as you go. So pay attention to when creating that, how unique is your offering in comparison to your competitors. There's many more. This is not an exhaustive list. You need to pay attention to. It'd be a good idea for you to write down all of the internal market forces that might be at play in your specific situation. And then in the next video, I'm going to show you how to lay this all out in a spreadsheet so that you can score yourself in your niche to determine if this is something that you want to get into.